Okay, how's everybody doing? It is a very wonderful Wednesday, Hump Day Wednesday, Day Y. Yeah, there you go. Nice gap up, nice solid day today. Obviously, we got the election in the U.S. overnight, and futures kind of just ticked higher all night from yesterday's close. Pretty much just went higher all night. We can take a look at futures here in a second. But the SPY did open up about 2% there. We did have a quick look at how things looked overnight. You can see just steady climb higher. This is, the SPY. Let me go to, here you go. Look at the futures overnight. You can see they just kind of steadily went higher throughout the night as it became clear who was going to win. And if you don't know, S on who won. That was Mr. Donald J. Trump. DJT is his social media platform, and there was some kind of news going on around this, but it had a nice little drop off there yesterday afternoon, then a gap up. This is his ticker symbol for Truth Social. Anyways, there you go. That's kind of how the political realm wound up shaping out overnight and why we're seeing a market reaction. Now, one of those things that we kind of talked about over the previous couple days is like we do usually get a post-election surge. The only other thing I'm going to say is we also are going to get FOMC later on today, so we'll see how long and just how much this lasts. And we'll talk about a few other things, but we are seeing some pretty good rotation, so we're going to mostly just focus on rotation here quickly. And that's about it. Qs up pretty good, 1.8%. It didn't gap up as much as the SPY, but it's had a little bit of a stronger day than the SPY so far. IWM up 4.5%. Wow, gapped up 5.5%. Jeez, huge day there. We'll talk about that when we get to the daily picture there, because we got some huge moves here. DIA up 3%. Oof. RSP currently up 1.6%. You can see it's come down from its gap up there. A little bit stronger move lower there, actually, in the first 25 minutes. So there you go. As far as the dailies, okay. So this is where it's going to look kind of interesting because we got such a large gap on across a lot of these different markets. And so we've had a nice little pullback here over the past couple weeks. It was going to be kind of interesting to see if this was just the retest. Kind of talked yesterday about how, possibly going higher. The interesting thing now is due to the substantial gap up and how much we've gone higher across a lot of these markets, kind of a tough one to say that we just drop off from here. That doesn't typically happen on huge gaps like this, but this is a very emotional gap because it's an election, right? So very reactionary type gap. So yeah, this is kind of a tough one. If you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm down to ride it higher, you're definitely looking for some kind of pullback, guys. Definitely looking for some kind of pullback here. These are huge gaps across a lot of these markets. That's the DIA. Here's the IWM. I'm going to come back to this one. I'm just going to run through some of these others on the daily, but this is we're going to talk about that one here in a second. Qs, very interesting, sneaky move on the Qs this morning. Sneaky. Took out all-time highs. Sneaky on the open. Look at that. Right there. Ooh. So, yeah, a little bit of a sneaky move there this morning. That's like, oh man, I didn't want to see that because, I've kind of talked about, we've had this lower high coming in over the past couple of months. So we've had this switch kind of going on between the Qs and SPY. Anyways, it might still hold true by the close of today. That's why it's going to be so weird or a weird day and interesting to see just kind of the market reaction in the second half of the day with FOMC, what they're going to talk about, as far as economic activity, because it's still going to come down to economic activity and that kind of stuff. Even though people feel like, oh, these sectors will do better than these sectors, well, you still need the economy to be doing well. So, yeah, I'd be curious to see what the Fed has to say later today. on Fed rate cuts anyways. SPY, huge gap up. Obviously, just retested in the previous all-time high here so far this morning. And yeah, there you go. Looking pretty good. So I'm going to go back to the IWM. So one of the things that we kind of talked about on the IWM, I don't really want to be bullish on it until it clears this area, right? Until it clears this area. We've had this steady stream, choppy uptrend. Well, obviously we had a huge flow yesterday. Kind of talked about a lot of people front running yesterday, trying to get in positions on who they think will win. This is probably an early indication of where the market was probably betting, and it looks like it kind of paid off. Obviously, we had this huge gap up. Guys, you're probably going to be looking for a decent pullback into probably somewhere in this zone, 227.50 to 227. 228, somewhere in there. I couldn't disagree with any of that, honestly. Other than that, we're as far as like where we're hitting highs, IWM hitting highs today. Whoa. I didn't realize that gap though was that big. So yeah, I mean IWM even hitting all-time highs so far today. So there you go. So all markets have hit all-time highs. We know the IWM's been the one that's lagged the most. And yeah, there you go. I'd be looking for some dip buying. Obviously, you can see a lot of selling. A lot of people probably just saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to take the overnight bet. Trump wins. And there you go. You got the payoff. Yeah, other than that, like that's probably what you're looking for. And it's probably makes sense. I would definitely be looking to be probably more exposed to the IWM for the next, for the next presidential cycle, whatever, however you're looking at that. Mostly because of some of the things that Donald Trump said recently, even like a Joe Rogan podcast last week, he had talked about some of the things that he had talked about economic stimulus and incentives and stuff like that. He said, yeah, if you just get rid of the regulation and bureaucracy, that's all you need to do for economic and business incentive. And it's like, so if he's serious about cutting back regulation, IWM, smaller businesses are going to have a much better, more competitive chance in, the next few years going forward. This probably looks to be like a pretty good way to go about it. I would just look for the pullback. Other than that, looking pretty good there. As far as, I'm going to take a quick look at the heat map, see what's losing, what's winning. As far as what's losing, healthcare. Consumer durables, Coke, a lot of this type of stuff, PM, Philip Morris. There's some medical stuff over here, not a whole lot, but pharmaceuticals definitely taking a hit today. If you've paid attention, you know some of the people that Trump has aligned himself with, their viewpoints on some of the things the medical industry does. So no surprise there that this is the area that's probably lagging the most. And yeah, you can see a lot of green out there, guys. We're up pretty good today, so makes perfect sense. We're seeing a lot of green out there. It's just the areas where you're not seeing the strength. I would say this is probably the area that you want to stay away from for now. As far as utilities, kind of interesting. Seeing some strength a little bit here on some of those nuclear energies. Vistra, PEG's underperforming a little bit here. CEG doing okay there on the daily, but yeah, as far as some of the things that kind of follow today, look for those things that are doing really good today that are not impacted so much by earnings. I know we're like right in the middle of earnings cycle, so look for those kind of things. And you can even look at the IWM and all those stocks, what does really well today. Try to find the things that are not impacted by earnings, because yeah, you're gonna have noise there. VIX, huge drop off today. So obviously we've had a lot of pressure built, and with the huge gap up today, VIX dropping pretty good. It's really kind of a bummer here on the VIX, because it's not exactly the greatest like fear or volatility index, right? Because I would say volatility's up. How is volatility not up with a huge move like that on the SPY? This is saying volatility's lowered? No, that is not right. That's why if you actually understand what the VIX is, it gives you a better indication of what's going on. DXY dollar index. Look at that monstrous move. My goodness. Wow. Strong start overnight. Just moved higher. Wow. What a move. That is huge. That is huge. GLD Gold Trust. Big move lower. God, I mean, it makes sense. I still would want to be bullish on GLD on any kind of significant pullbacks. I don't think you're wanting to be bearish. Maybe you're probably locking in some positions. Probably should have mentioned that yesterday. Kind of probably would have made sense, but you know, it is what it is. I don't think you really have a great reason to be out of gold right at this point in time. We still have a lot of debt, a lot of money out there circulating, so I think you'd be all right owning some GLD, gold, some precious metals. 10-year yield, also a huge move today. Look at that monster move. Man, that is, like, some of these things are just not good because your national debt is still just, it's so high. And with that huge gap down that we had to start the week on Monday, well, obviously we just went right over that. And I know on the DXY here, even on a daily, even though it says we didn't really gap, we actually did gap down to start the week. So the fact that the dollar and yields are both higher is not something that's just, it's not good. It's very difficult to manage a situation like that when you have such a high debt. As far as 10 and 2 inversion, nice push higher, looking pretty good here. Okay, I'm gonna kind of look at the 2-year real quick. 2-year up pretty good, not as much as the 10-year, so maybe long terms are up even more. 30-year is up a little bit more than the 10-year. Okay, so longer terms are up a little bit more than the shorter terms. HYG, high yield corporate bonds, for how much yields are up, I mean, bond prices, the HYG holding tough. That's kind of promising. High yield, I mean, that's more of the risky business. So maybe the market's kind of saying, you know, we're going to see better performance from small caps, because that's probably, you know, high yield corporate bonds are more small caps. You know, that's why the high yield, right? The high risk. So maybe that's what the market's saying here about high yield. Yeah, you can see the LQD high investment grade corporate bonds. Yep, really dropping off there. So yeah, you're definitely seeing that rotation out of big business and into small caps, smaller company type investments. Even though the SPY and Qs are up pretty good, the IWM is up way more. TLT also down quite stupendously. All right, taking a look at sector rotation. What do we got going on today? Man, we got some crazy movement going on. Financials up pretty strong. Yeah, there you go. XLF up very strong, up 5.25%. Energies up doing pretty good. Industrials doing pretty well on the day. And discretionaries and tech, a little bit outperformance there. Communications kind of in line with the market. Materials a little bit underperforming. Healthcare makes sense that they are underperforming. Utilities, staples definitely underperforming. They're actually negative on the day. And real estate makes sense. Biggest lagger with big moves on yields. Big move on yields. As far as intraday price action, right? Take out the gap. Let's see who's putting money to work during the day. Energies, best performer. Tech, in line with the market. Communications, a little bit underperforming there. Discretionaries, financials, utilities, industrials, all underperforming a little bit there. Materials as well. Staples, healthcare, big underperformance there during the day. Which kind of makes sense, even though staples is like its own category, you know, separate than healthcare. There's some healthcare related stuff kind of in that staples area, and real estate. So yeah, you're definitely seeing you know, the Trump trade kind of take place here. More of things that aren't working than things that are working, I would say.